All right, hey guys, welcome to Costa Rica Unfiltered. I'm here with Billy Graf, owner of Onda,
Correct.
and this is one of the first episodes that we're doing off-site. We got some construction in the background, so you might be able to hear a little bit, but we'll ignore that.
Yeah, it's kind of a regular occurrence around these parts these days.
Yeah, we've got Onda's expanding here, so they've got a lot on the go.
This is the Costa Rica Unfiltered podcast, featuring your host, Kenny Costa Rica. Welcome to today's guest, Billy Graf.
So, Billy, let's talk about yourself.
Okay.
And where you originally came from.
Yes, I'm originally from Madison, Wisconsin. Grew up there, went to university there, studied real estate and finance. Moved on and started my career in investment banking with a middle market firm up in Minneapolis called Harris Williams & Company. I was in their restaurant and retail group, and so we did a lot of chain restaurants, chain retailers, which has some similarities to what we're doing here with Onda. I moved out to San Francisco, worked for a private equity fund, and then decided that I wanted to travel and see the world a bit before I got too old, so left the private equity job and went backpacking for, call it 8 or 9 months, primarily in Southeast Asia, where I met my future business partner, Bernie, who is our chief operating officer, who handles all the operations while I'm primarily focused on finding new locations, acquiring real estate, developing real estate, raising money, talking to banks, all that fun stuff. Came back, ran corporate development for a chain of dental clinics in the Midwest for a while, realized my heart wasn't in it, left, traveled some more, and then essentially COVID happened, and I was sitting there during COVID watching CNN in my PJs in my condo in Madison, Wisconsin, and the world was on fire, and we were never going to get on an airplane again, we were never going to travel again.
Life was over.
Life was over. The cruise lines were going out of business, and the airlines are going out of business, and I sat there and something kind of clicked in my head, and I just said, man, if everybody's sort of running one way, can we run the other direction and take advantage of it? We had the idea to, or I had the idea to, looked for distressed hospitality real estate as a result of COVID, and see if we could buy it and then reposition it for sort of like the modern traveler, the post-COVID world, right? We were all living in this world where people were working from home, and I could kind of see that the pendulum had swung away from the 5-day work week in the office. And had a bunch of friends who were starting to blend work and travel. You saw kind of the rise of the digital nomads are sort of the on the bleeding edge of this, but you could see it coming more mainstream. And so we had the kernel of an idea of, can we kind of take advantage of some of these shifts coming out of COVID? And so, originally knew that we wanted to look for hotels within a relatively defined region.
Big truck.
We get a dump truck.
Right on the main road here, don't worry.
Yeah, so we said, look, we want to do this. We want to do this somewhere tropical. We want to do this somewhere fun where people want to travel. And given that we the original idea was primarily to cater to American remote workers, we wanted to find a place that was in approximately the same time zones as the continental United States, and then a relatively short flight. We kind of said no more than 4 or 5 or 6 hours, and so that really narrowed our focus from Mexico down to maybe Colombia. We actually originally started looking for hotels in Mexico, and it was just a bit more difficult market to crack, particularly as a foreigner. And for a variety of reasons, on the suggestion of one of our advisors, we looked at Costa Rica. And obviously, we ultimately ended up here. And so I came down here in November of 2020, so it's been almost 3 years, and had this idea of, can we find distressed hospitality real estate that we can buy and transform? And at that point in time, we didn't even know if we were going to be able to do it. So, came down here and rented a car and traveled around and kind of realized very quickly that this was a different market than Mexico, that there was quite a bit more, infrastructure to support foreign investment. One of the major reasons we ended up in Costa Rica is it's a really great place to be a foreign investor, right? Stability of government, as you know, right? Yeah. I mean, they abolished the military in the late 40s. They've encouraged foreign investment. You can, buy a car here as a foreigner. You can invest in property here as a foreigner. With essentially the same property rights as a citizen. You can do business in the U.S. dollar, right? We have bank accounts in dollars, we have bank accounts in colones, credit cards are accepted, and for us what was really important too is that the infrastructure is really good. So in the hotel where we're sitting, there's 2 different ISPs that'll do fiber, commercial fiber. There's 3 different ISPs that I think will do cable. Long story short, you can get great internet here.
Yeah.
The roads are relatively good. You can drink the tap water.
Yeah.
It really it checked all the boxes, and so. Yeah, came down here in late 2020, kind of got my bearings. I didn't really know. I'd only been to Costa Rica once before for just a week, and it was actually over on the Caribbean side. And so started working on this side and driving around Guanacaste, and I was like, oh yeah, there's plenty of real estate for sale here. There's plenty of opportunities. The trick for us is just finding one. And so decided to invest more time into Costa Rica, and ended up buying a pickup truck and brought my business partner down here, and we spent the next 7 months driving around, kicking the tires on every sort of rundown or out of business, call it 10 to 30 key hotel that we could find in Guanacaste.
So you guys were primarily looking in Guanacaste at the time?
Yes, and what drove that, originally I didn't even know that there was a second airport in Costa Rica. So the first time I came down here, I flew into San Jose. The second time I came down to go looking for hotels in December of 2020 or November of 2020, flew into San Jose, and somebody's like, well, there's another airport out there called Liberia. I was like, no, I didn't. And what's really cool is, given how important tourism is to the Costa Rican economy, I think it's something like 10 or 11% of GDP down here, the government actually publishes, like they're all over the statistics related to tourism. So there's ICT, which is like the government's tourism authority, and so they publish a report monthly of like international arrivals from the airports, all the statistics of how many people came, how many people left, where those people come from. And if you dig into that report, what we saw was that actually, the San Jose airport shows decent growth, call it 3-ish% to 5% year-over-year growth. But if you look at the Liberia airport, which is now the Guanacaste airport, over the last 15 or 20 years since its inception, it's been posting 10% year-over-year growth.
Yeah, just crazy.
Much more growth, right? You're seeing a lot more development, right? And I can't pretend to have a long history. I don't know what this area of the country was like 20 years ago, but my understanding is that it was quite a bit less developed than it is now.
Yeah, we hear from everybody, all our friends.
And that the airport was really the catalyst that drove, it has sort of morphed into Costa Rica's Gold Coast, and that airport has provided access to what are now incredibly popular tourist destinations like Tamarindo, Nosara, Santa Teresa, Papagao Peninsula. This is where, in the last, 5-ish years, you've seen the bulk of the hospitality development. There's a lot of primarily high-end development here. It's really become a destination for luxury travel or higher end travel, I think.
Yeah, in this location, I agree.
Yeah. And so you're seeing now, I think they're doing like a 300-ish room Ritz-Carlton Reserve somewhere around here. They're doing a 300-ish room Waldorf Astoria somewhere around here. You've got the Four Seasons Papagayo, you've got a JW Marriott, you've got a Westin, you've got a W. I mean, you have your choice of very high-end hotels. And one of the things that we realized once we got here is we said, wow, we love the dynamics. We love how many people are coming here, on top of all the country-specific things that I mentioned earlier. This would be a really great place for us to start. The Liberia airport primarily services Canada and the United States. I think there's maybe only 1 or 2 flights from Europe, but we mostly get Americans and Canadians flying into this airport, which aligned with what we were hoping to do with the brand. And so, our idea here was to buy what was an out-of-business 9-room hotel and renovate it primarily as proof of concept. So I'm skipping around a little bit. Long story short, we drove around for 7 months in Guanacaste, got to know all these different markets, right? And that's one thing that I encourage people, because I get people who reach out all the time now asking, man, I want to move to Costa Rica, or I want to start a business in Costa Rica. I think I like, Playa del Coco or wherever, I think I'm going to buy this place. And
you're like, come down here.
My first thing is come down. Don't do anything over the internet. Like, come down and make sure you like the country. I mean, it is different from the United States. In many ways, it's, in my opinion, better. But there's challenges, right? Like, there's no street addresses here. Mail isn't really a thing. Amazon.com isn't a thing. You can't just go online and order whatever you want and have it delivered. Uber is less of a thing. Like, where we are right now in Playa Grande, it doesn't really exist. And so, there are some challenges, and you should make sure that you're okay with those, and those are things that you kind of don't mind or aren't deal breakers. And then, if generally the country is a good fit, I don't think I had an appreciation for just, how different sort of the character is in all of these different towns, right? There's places that aren't, that far from each other, down the coast. If you look at Playa del Coco, Playa Hermosa, Tamarindo, Nosara, Samara, Santa Teresa, you're saying, oh, but they're all on that same coast. They're probably all kind of sort of the same. And the answer is, like, they're not, right?
They're completely different.
Yeah, and it's not that any one of them is better than the others, but they all have very, distinct vibes. And if you're a scuba diver, you probably want to be in Playa del Coco.
Yeah.
If you're more like health and wellness, Nosara is a destination there. And, Tamarindo is really great, for a lot of people, but primarily like younger kind of backpackery people that like to go out. There's lots of bars, there's lots of restaurants, there's lots of, it's a little bit more developed and a little bit more high energy, I guess I would say, than some of the other places. And so, I'm glad that we took the time. I'm glad, because I was sitting in my condo in Wisconsin looking at hotels, like thinking about lobbing out offers. And frankly, I think we avoided probably more than one mistake by actually coming down here and spending the time. And so that's what I did, is I lived Playa Flamingo for 1 month. I lived in Tamarindo for a little bit over a month. I lived in Nosara for a month. I spent time in Santa Teresa. I spent
Just
time in
learning
Jaco.
what
Just
all
learning.
those areas.
Just
yeah.
go live there, get an Airbnb, check into a hotel, and get out of that sort of tourist honeymoon phase, and like go to the grocery store, figure out, okay, how do I take my trash out? If I need to send a letter, if I need to do whatever, pick up a package, how do I do it? Walk around, get to know your neighbors, get to know the other businesses, get to know what's there, what's not there.
Yeah, at the same time for your clientele to let them know, like if you're coming here, this is what you can expect, or this is how you can get stuff. And
Yeah, no, exactly, and it's we sort of took the time, and as a result of having spent time in some of these different communities, we realized that some of them that I originally, on paper thought might have been a good fit for our concept really ultimately weren't.
Yeah.
And so, after, like I said, 7-ish months of driving around and kicking tires, we ultimately bought a property here in Playa Grande, which is about an hour drive from the Liberia airport. It's very close to Tamarindo. If you walked on the beach, I think it's only 3 miles or something like that. It's a little bit longer of a drive. But the vibe really fit with what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's an up-and-coming community. There's quite a bit of development going on, as you guys can probably hear in the background with some construction.
There's always
noise,
development
the
going
trucks
on
and
here.
stuff. Yeah, no, and so we had this hotel, and it had good bones, and it had kind of fallen into disrepair, and it was out of business because of COVID. But we kind of saw the vision, right? We saw what we could do with it, and so we bought it in July of 2021, and then we spent the next 6-ish months renovating it. Transforming it into Onda, our first Onda, the flagship. And then we launched on January 1st of 2022, where we opened to guests. And so we've been operational for a little bit over a year and a half. And yeah, we've had great traction. We've learned a lot. We've made a lot of mistakes. There's things that, hopefully we won't do again, but by and large, everything's gone pretty well so far.
Yeah, and I think coming up with the second one, you guys have a good grasp of things here, and I can't wait. I discussed with you going to look at the second location. I don't know if we can talk about the second location, but I'm pretty excited that I want to go down there and see it before you guys start the renos, because I actually knew about this place. I actually looked at this place when I was coming down here, when this hotel was for sale.
Yep.
And I knew exactly what it looked like because I was looking at a few different places also. And then coming here after you guys had finished the reno, I was like, wow, this place looks absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you. No,
Yeah.
it's we put a lot of work into it, and it very much is a work in progress. This very first one is a test. For a good example, we're sitting here sort of kind of in what's supposed to be the lobby. There's a reception desk back there that we don't use.
Yeah.
But when we launched, we had a full-time receptionist sitting there, and we realized we just, at this size and in this geography, we don't have a need for it. And the technology that we use for the hotel, like one of our, we cater to sort of younger, more tech-forward guests, and what we realize is they actually don't mind like a self-service model. They like doing everything on their phone. We kind of say that we built our concept for the quote smartphone traveler, and so
Yeah, Billy's got a bracelet on right now. That's how you kind of get around everything here.
yeah, so you can come in and we essentially eliminated the receptionist position. We've got an iPad and a phone just behind me here, and when you walk in, you scan a QR code on your phone, it finds your reservation, you pull it up, you confirm, and you pick one of these bracelets up out of a bowl, and you just tap it to this little RFID key cutter machine, and it assigns you to your room, and it cuts it. Your check-in date is right when you get here. Your checkout date is 11 a.m. and whatever your reservation is for. And
systems, man. If the systems work, I mean, everything else kind of falls into place.
And look, that's something that we didn't have day one, but it's something that we've learned, right? And so, like in this location, we spent all this money building out a reception desk that ultimately I think we'll probably rip out at some point, and we just moved to a sort of a self-serve check-in model where you've got a helper there, the bartender's there, they can help you through it, they're familiar with the process, but there's not really anything they need to do.
Yeah.
We only accept reservations online. You cannot call to make a reservation. You cannot walk in and make a reservation. And part of the reason we do that is that way everybody goes through the same process. We've got all your information. We've got your credit card on file.
Everything's streamlined. Yeah.
Everything's streamlined. So when you get here, there's sort of no surprises or anything like that. You've got your own reservation. You don't call up and say, oh, I want to book June 3rd through the 6th, and we book it for the wrong year or something like that.
Yeah.
Or it gets in the computer for the wrong year. And so, like I said, this first one has really been an experiment. We've learned quite a bit, and that's just one example. I could probably give you 100 more. And so the idea is to take this brand on the road and expand it. And our initial goal, call it our 5-year goal, would be to have 10 Onda branded hotels within Costa Rica, right? And so what we'd like to do is build a relatively dense network here in most of the well-trafficked tourist locations, so that if somebody wants, they can come down and they can see most of the country, from within our brand and go out, and you can be adventurous during the day, but not necessarily have to be adventurous with where you sleep, right? You come back, you kind of know, it's the benefit of any brand, right? You go to a Hilton Garden Inn, you kind of know what a Hilton Garden Inn is going to be like.
Exactly.
As I always say around here, it's not necessarily that anybody goes to McDonald's because they particularly love McDonald's. You go to McDonald's because you know that Big Mac at McDonald's A is going to be the same as a Big Mac at McDonald's B.
Yeah.
And so with a lot of the things that we do, we're just trying to make sure that, linens and hot water and air conditioning, those kind of very fundamental things are consistent from location to location. But then each one will be tailored, to the community in which we operate. And the cool thing about our model is that technology allows us to buy and manage smaller hotels than large brands, right? You don't usually see brands in the kind of sub 100 key market unless they're very high end.
Yeah.
And it allows us to put locations in places that the big brands just can't touch. And these are places, by and large, that more people want to go. They're the more interesting places, And if you walk into the bar and lobby at, the Westin or the W or whatever, it's people staying at the Westin and the W. You're not really getting like kind of walk-ins from the community that you're going to bump into here. Whereas, our location here is definitely more community focused. You come in, a lot of our best customers are our neighbors, and so you come in and the local community's hanging out here. And as a guest, you then get to interact with the local community and integrate a little bit more.
Which is, I think, what we love it. Like when we come here, it's fantastic. It's always a good time. You come in, there's new people that are just staying at the hotel, but then you see all your friends at the same time, and it's just a cool place to hang out.
Exactly. So, like I said, the goal is to go do 10 of these things. This first one was really a proof of concept. Based on the first year performance of this hotel, we bought a second hotel. It's an existing hostel, actually, up in Santa Elena. One of our investors was actually down here staying at this hotel. He wanted to see a different part of the country. And so went to Monteverde, checked into this place, and wrote back and was kind of like, it's like owned by this American couple, originally from Texas. It's a really cool place. The location's fantastic. The building needs a little bit of love. It's very hostel-y, but he's like, I kind of sort of see it. And so, on that basis, I went up there, I checked in as a guest, I introduced myself to the owner, and it's just started a conversation, right? It didn't happen overnight. It was the kind of conversation that unfolded over sort of the course of a year, to be completely honest. And so we ended up buying that hotel from the previous owners who had owned it for, I think, almost 20 years, if not 20 years. We bought that at the end of February this year. And the goal, we're just operating it as is right now. It's called Pension Santa Elena. It's right in the heart of Santa Elena, which is the jumping off point for all the different, the Monteverde Cloud Forest Reserve, the Children's Eternal Cloud. There's a bunch of these national parks up there.
So is that like, because I haven't been there yet, this is like, that'll be our first time when we go check out the hotel. Is it like a one strip with like all the kind of?
No, so it's they call it the triangle. So it's got this one-way circulating triangle of downtown. And, the way that I describe Santa Elena to people, Monteverde to people, it's almost like a ski town without the skiing. It's a mountain town,
cool.
So you're up at altitude. I think the town itself is at 4,000 feet, give or take. My understanding is that it was originally sort of developed back in the 50s and the 60s by American Quakers dodging the Korean War draft or something. So it's got an interesting history. There's a big Quaker population up there. There's quite a bit of dairy farming. It's a very different vibe than out here in Guanacaste, for example. But it's not that far away. It's like a 3.5-hour car drive, but it's dramatically different, right? There is no beach up there. It's a little bit crisper. It gets down into kind of the 50s and the 60s at night. There's clouds and it kind of rains. But there's a diversity of activities there that we just don't get here, right? And so sometimes we get people to come stay at this hotel and they're, I really want to do a coffee tour, or I really want to go zip lining. And our answer is, look, you can do that here. Yeah. We can arrange that for you if you want to get in. You're spend a lot of time in the car. You're probably going to pay a little bit, more money than you otherwise would. And it's a good experience. But honestly, if you're coming down for a week, what I tell people is just go up there and spend 2 days up there, because it's just known for that.
It's going to be something you guys can offer, right?
Exactly, right? And that's the benefit of building out this network. And so, we bought that hotel. We had one set of plans that we were working on, and then as we continued to operate redevelopment plans that we were working on. And as we continued to operate this hotel, we kept learning things, And unfortunately, what we had to do is go back to our architect and just say, we've learned so much that we kind of need to start over.
Yeah, just our plans changed drastically.
Our plans changed, right? And could we build and could we make it work the way that we originally designed it? Sure, but we're going to make it work a lot better if we kind of blow it up and start over and do it a little bit differently.
Like, what the hell?
No, our architect Federico's been absolutely fantastic. He's a total trooper. He's been with us essentially since day one, intimately involved in the conversion of this location, which is really helpful for us. He's been out here a handful of times. We meet him in Monteverde a bunch.
So he's doing that one also.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
exactly.
perfect.
So he's gotten to know the brand. He's about my age. He's probably mid to late 30s. He's from Costa Rica. Spent his whole life here, and so does a good job of sort of interpreting what we're trying to accomplish as a brand, and then like how do we actually execute that in the markets that we want to operate.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot less questions involved when you have somebody that's with you for that amount of time. Like they just
100%.
Understand a lot more
100%
stuff. Right?
They just get things like I don't have to, tell him. There's a million little things we've done here. We've custom designed. We have shared bunk rooms, like a high-end hostel bunk room, but we did built-in custom wood beds that have curtains, that have full-size mattresses, not twins. And he knows all those specifications, and he knows that they have to be built in, and he knows exactly how much they take. So when we're designing rooms, But
you went through the beginning stage. It was like, no, we can't do that, or
we learned quite a bit, and so it's fun for the second one, right? Is that we've now gotten down to a level of detail that we just weren't able to do here. Frankly, we probably didn't even know existed here. And so what we're working with our architect to do is to build out, I don't know what they call it, probably not a brand book, but a playbook where we specify, when you come in to do an Onda, we have 2 floor tiles, a light tile and a dark tile. The bathroom tile is this tile. It's this exact skew Kohler toilet, this Kohler sink.
Yeah.
We need this water heater, this many liters of capacity in the water reservoir.
And that's just the standard.
That's the standard, right? And it's these 2 pumps, water pumps from this specific company. The IT rack needs to go here. It needs to be, 48U so that we can fit in all of our stuff. The stereo stuff needs to go here. The idea is to not be starting from scratch with every single one of these locations. You start with a playbook, and maybe it's this wood wall covering, or we've got that Viridian green paint.
Yeah. You'll just adjust less and less every time.
Exactly, right? So that when you hand it, right, because right now, I'm intimately involved in converting these locations. Bernie's intimately involved. Like I said, Federico, our architect, has been with us since day one. Our team is all right here. It's really easy for us to be here going, wait a minute, hold on, that tile's not right, this isn't right, we don't like this won't work for whatever reason.
But when we're not,
right, we need to be able to give somebody else who hopefully is familiar with our brand, but ultimately won't be as familiar as we are. We want to give that person this playbook and to say, look, here, take the playbook, and just if you don't deviate from this book, you can't really make a mistake.
Yeah, everything is there.
Everything's there. So when you walk into a room, you're like, all right, I know we need to redo this wall or put a facade over this. Here's your menu. You're not starting from scratch.
They'll message you and ask you for tile. You're going to say page 6.
Exactly. You've got the playbook, right? And so that's the idea, is that each one of these should get a little bit easier, a little bit easier, a little bit easier, and then we have the benefit of, we own this real estate.
Yeah.
We purchased the real estate up in Monteverde, but eventually, right, we'd like to move to a managed hotel model where we come in and it's kind of a turnkey redevelopment and management of properties that we don't own, right? And so in order to have the credibility to do that, right? I mean, imagine you're a property owner and you're looking for a manager, and I come to you and I say, hey, I'm Bill, and we're gonna convert the whole thing. We're gonna convert it to my brand, Onda, and we're gonna change all this stuff. And you need to have a bit of credibility when you go into that conversation. People aren't gonna like the idea of some guy who's not nobody wants to be the guinea pig.
Yeah. Take it easy, Bill. You don't have anything.
Well, and that's
show,
the idea.
right?
Is hopefully we get these first 2 done, and this first one is kind of V1. The second one will be V2, and then when that one's done, it becomes the showpiece where we take prospective partners through and say, look, if we, this is kind of the model of what an Onda could be.
Yeah.
This is kind of sort of what we do when we say, hey, we need to change out that tile or these sinks or whatever. You will see exactly how it looks and feels, and why that's important to our concept, and that it's not just wasted money, and that there actually is a reason behind a lot of these decisions that we've made.
Mm-hmm. One thing I had, talking about all these other hotels, and you're kind of discussing how you guys want to pop them up and the amount you guys want. Are there any investment opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Candidly, access to capital is probably our single biggest pain point right now. When we started, it was very much friends and family. I think we currently have 19 investors. These are not hospitality real estate professionals. We have not raised to date any institutional capital. It's been done, with relatively small checks here and there. We did the entirety of this first hotel with equity. We're just finally tapping into the debt markets, as I think I probably was telling you over a beer last night. We're working with Banco Nacional to underwrite a mortgage on this property, and knock on wood, we'll hear back on that today. But yeah, I mean, in general, it's not as if I have a specific, we're raising money right now for this exact thing.
But there'll always be opportunities to.
And what's cool is that, one of the things that I learned, right, it's a little bit different from the United States. Where I come from, the real estate deals that we did, right, you spin up an LLC and you stick an entity in, you stick an asset in it, and you go to the bank and they finance it, and you can kind of do it on a deal by deal basis. and you're always spinning up new legal entities to do new things, and that's just not. They do business a little bit differently here, where it's each entity needs a little bit more of a track record.
Yeah.
They're the anti-money laundering and know your customer laws at the banks are very strict. It can be difficult to open up bank accounts when you start wiring money down if you're a new client.
Yeah.
And the money's coming from a foreign country.
We went through a lot of that too.
Yeah, 100%, right? And these are things anybody goes through, and so. When I originally came down, the idea was that we would spin up a new legal entity for every single hotel, and we quickly realized that that sort of starts the clock over. That's a brand new relationship with the bank over again. That's if you want to take out a loan, that entity alone needs to have a track record, right? You need to have 3 years or whatever track record before the bank will even talk to you about a loan.
Yeah, exactly.
And so as a result, we sort of shifted strategies and this entity that we spun up to do the development here originally, we actually did that second acquisition from within that entity, and we anticipate going forward future acquisitions that we do would be in that same entity, right? And
fantastic.
So, with regard to investment opportunities, option A, the easiest option, particularly for people that are looking to make a kind of a smaller investment. I think our minimum investment right now is about $65,000. Would be to invest in our existing structure, right, alongside all of our existing investors. Now, we on occasion have had people reach out who have sort of a bigger appetite and want to take down a whole hotel, and they've said, look, if I want to buy a hotel, I like the fundamentals, I like Costa Rica, I like hospitality. Maybe my family has a strong. We love Nosara, we love Samar, or whatever. We'd love to own a hotel there, but we don't want to deal with it. If I bought the hotel and I funded a bank account, would you go in and do the redevelopment and operate it?
Yeah.
That's another investment opportunity where we haven't done one of those yet, but the point that I'm trying to make is that we're relatively flexible. There is not a lack of opportunity in Costa Rica from where I'm sitting. There's a lack of capital. So,
exactly.
Yeah, if anybody's interested in having a more detailed conversation about that, I'm always happy.
Yeah, definitely. Bernie.
Yes, sir.
What's up, man?
You good?
Yeah.
We're podcasting.
Need anything?
We're podcast. Yeah, put your head in here so we can see who the other face is behind Onda.
I'm like the guy that actually does the work, by the way.
I agree.
You don't look like you did much work shaving your face this morning. No. That's another one. If I'm just going to riff, as somebody in hospitality, this is near and dear to my heart. I mean, you're subject to the same thing. Is that, if you go on blogs, right? If you've never been to Costa Rica before and you're all excited and you're planning your trip, best time of year to visit Costa Rica. 9 out of 10 blog posts will say, oh, well, there's a dry season and there's a rainy season.
Yeah.
They cut the year into two, right? And dry season sort of kind of lasts from American Thanksgiving, not Canadian Thanksgiving. American Thanksgiving to Easter. And then rainy season is sort of Easter to, back the other end of the year, call it April through October. When I hear rainy season, I think like monsoon season.
Yeah, we can't go out.
Yeah, no, I think that you will be trapped inside because it's raining so much, and that's not really what it means. Dry season means it's a drought. Dry season means it's not going to rain, right? So as you know, we don't get a drop of rain here, pretty much.
Yeah, when it stops raining, it stops raining. It doesn't rain.
From the end-ish of November, beginning of December through about Easter.
Yeah, not one drop.
Not one drop.
Yeah.
It's dry, and things turn brown. When my family first came down, I remember we were driving around, I thought it was supposed to be green. I thought it was like the rainforest and lush. I'm like, well, you guys are here in March. Give it a month or two, and it'll start raining again. Everything turns green.
Or go to Monteverde.
Exactly, where things are just. Guanacaste is to my understanding, the driest region in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Which can be great if you're trying to avoid the rain, but in other times it's hard because access to water here is a big deal.
Yeah.
But no, we've been pushing. You've seen on some blogs, we've been pushing for them. We got to make a third season, really, and so. I would argue that sure, there's dry season, that is, Thanksgiving to Easter. I would argue that sort of the true rainy season is September and October, which is just that it's disproportionately rainy, although it's still not. I mean, we're sitting here, it's kind of overcast day, but it's sunny out. You could have a perfectly pleasant day. It hasn't rained at all today.
Yeah.
It rained pretty hard yesterday for a couple hours, but not all of the day.
I think this week we've had a couple of days where it rained during the day. But this entire rainy season, it's rained at night, and it's been absolutely spectacular days.
Exactly. It's just a little bit more hit or miss. Now, I'm pushing for the introduction of a third season, right? The green season. I can't take credit for this. I've read this somewhere else. But the green season, which lasts from, call it April through August, right? And the green season just means it can rain.
Yeah, it can rain.
As opposed to the dry season where it does not rain at all.
Yeah.
The green season just means it can rain. And what's really cool about it is because there's this big push, for whatever reason, the tourism season during that dry season is massive, right? Like everything is packed. The restaurants are packed. The bars are packed. Every hotel operator is a great operator. Yeah. Everyone that I've ever diligenced, right? Everybody's at 90, 100% occupancy that time of the year. Yeah. And what separates the good operators and the bad operators is who can stay sort of kind of full the rest of the year. But whenever friends are asking about coming down, I say, look, like if I were you, I would come down May, June, July, August.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, you get a discount. I'm like, I don't think you understand the magnitude of the discount that you get. Like, for example, here at our hotel here, during, call it Christmas to New Year's, I think the private rooms here are somewhere between $300 and $350 a night. So we use dynamic pricing, so they float around a little bit. Yeah. But generally kind of the $300 range. That same exact room right now is $65 a night.
Yeah, that's absolutely
crazy. It's
crazy.
not like a 20 or 30% discount. I mean, you can get, and what's really cool is that, the places are less empty. You can go do all the touristy stuff. You're not going to be waiting in lines. There's not going to be a million people in your pictures.
And you do whatever you want. We went to the animal park there not long ago, and I think their high season pricing is like $130, or I don't know. Kimberly booked it all. And I think we ended up paying like $60 to go out to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and like restaurants are happy to have you. You're going to get great service.
Definitely.
It's, look, high season's high for a reason. It's beautiful. There's not a cloud in the sky. It's, the weather's kind of perfect. It's hot. It's whatever.
Beautiful.
It corresponds with winter in the United States and Canada. I get it. I'm from Wisconsin. I get leaving Wisconsin in January, February to come down to Costa Rica.
And that's what we get. People always say, well, I'm not going to go down there in August, but.
No, it's one of those ones, Costa Rica is not a cheap country by any means.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of backpacking. I've backpacked through Guatemala. I've been to Honduras. They're just, I've been to Nicaragua. They're much cheaper geographies, and there's a lot of people that are curious, but about coming to Costa Rica, but are a bit can be a bit turned off by the price. And what I always tell those people is like, look, if you're sort of kind of on a budget, don't come during high season. You're not going to have a great time.
Yeah.
But there are other times of the year where you can come here and you can get an absolutely fantastic deal and get just as good of an experience as if you would come. If not, I mean, in some cases, a better experience.
Yeah, you can see the beauty of this place. Like Costa Rica has some absolutely stunning things to see, and green season is probably the time to come, right? I mean,
that's what I always tell people. I mean, and that's what sort of blows my mind. It's another reason why we ended up here. Again, I've done a lot of backpacking, Europe, Central America, South America, Southeast Asia. What's amazing about Costa Rica, right, is it's a relatively small country in terms of population. I think it's 5-ish million people now.
Yeah.
Relatively small country in terms of geography, although don't let that fool you. Getting from place to place can take a little bit longer. You're not on like the interstates like in the United States.
4-lane paved highways.
No. Yeah. But it still is a relatively small country. But what's so cool is that it's not as if there's like 1 or 2 major tourist destinations here with interesting things to do.
Yeah, there's like a bunch.
And there's like 15 major ones, like major ones. And then, I have no idea how many more. There's like a long tail, probably things that are a little bit more off the beaten path that I'm not aware of. But, as a business owner and investor, that was actually one of the reasons that attracted us here is, once we figured this stuff out, the permitting stuff, the Factura Electronica stuff, the legal stuff, the banking stuff, the loan. Then what's really great is that we can do it over a bunch of locations. It's not as if this is a country where it's okay, we did 1 or 2 locations and now that's kind of the only place tourists go, and now I got to go figure it out in Guatemala or Honduras or wherever.
You can do a ton of locations.
Yes.
And you guys do have a cool list. I remember we discussed once and I was like, wow, that sounds like...
I mean, it's the greatest hits of Costa Rica. And that's kind of what we realized.
Exactly.
That we are highly dependent on foot traffic, and as fun as it would be to try to find the next up-and-coming place, which I think we sort of have here in Playa Grande, ironically, but going forward, the idea is to just sort of shut up and play the hits, right? It's Monteverde, La Fortuna, Manuel Antonio, Uvita, San Jose, Puerto Viejo, Samara, Nosara, Santa Teresa. I'm sure I'm missing 1 or 2, but I mean, all the places that any blog that you pull up, if you pull up Frommers or you pull up Rick Steves or any of those guides, I mean,
they're the places.
You're not going to be surprised by the places that are on our list to develop.
But the best thing is, like, I love how because you were right when you said they are all so different. All these places are so different that when you do all the hit list place, if you can integrate people coming from this hotel to go to other ones, then you can have people that are staying here for a longer period of time and just enjoying all the areas and talking about, wow, I can't believe how different they are, right?
No, it is. It's unbelievable. Even some people are like, oh, so I'm going to pick Monteverde or La Fortuna. They're kind of sort of the same. And I'm like, well, actually not kind of sort of the same. Monteverde, like you're up in the mountains. It's cloud forest and hanging bridges. And La Fortuna, you're sort of at the base of a volcano and there's a lake. But there's like thermal springs. Right? sure I'm going to put my foot in my mouth. To my knowledge, there aren't thermal springs up in Monteverde, not ones that I've been to. But like, even though these things are kind of close on a map, there is a breadth of experience that there's a reason that there are 10 different tourist places.
Yeah,
if
definitely.
they all had the exact same thing,
then
there wouldn't be that many of them.
Exactly.
So it's really cool, and I can't pretend to have seen the whole country. I'm a foreigner. Like I said, I showed up about 3 years ago. I've been living here pretty much full time ever since, and so there's still many places that I have yet to explore, particularly down in the Osa Peninsula, that I'd love to go see that I haven't had a chance yet because I've been so busy up here.
But you're going to.
I will at some point when business allows it. I will say one of the coolest things I've ever done in my whole life happened to be in Costa Rica. I had no idea about it when I got here. I'm a huge scuba diver, and so we have some scuba diving around here. It's good. I've just been spoiled. I've done a lot of diving around the world. And somebody said, have you ever heard of this thing called Cocos Island? And I was like, I have no idea what it was. And I started looking into it, and apparently it's this island. It's like 350 miles off the coast of Costa Rica. It's in the same island chain as the Galapagos. It's one of these like volcanic islands that formed however many millions of years ago. It was the inspiration for Jurassic Park, although they didn't film it there. They filmed it in Hawaii. It was the inspiration for the Treasure Island book from however long ago. So it's this funky volcanic island kind of out by itself, 350 miles off the shore.
Is this the Hammerhead one?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
we discussed. This is crazy.
And so it's highly regulated. So I don't know if the United Nations or whoever, like there's some legal battle back in the 70s about what country this island belonged to. Eventually, it was decided that it belonged to Costa Rica. Once it was included in Costa Rica, it actually doubled the size of Costa Rica's territory, but it's all this water now. So Costa Rica owns all the ocean going out to this island, and so it's a national park. It's like a marine national park around the island for I don't know how many miles, and so the only people allowed to be on the island are these national park rangers, and there's not that many of them out there. There's like 5 or 10 of them out there. And then the Costa Rican government, I think, has issued permits to only 2 companies to operate scuba trips out there. So to my knowledge, really the only way to go out there is to go on one of these 2 scuba trips. Each one of the companies, I believe, has 2 boats.
What's the distance? Because I don't remember what it is, but I remember my face was like, what? It takes that long to get out there?
Yeah, 36 hours out, 36 hours back.
Wow.
And so it's, I think it's an 11-day trip. 10-day trip. You go out, you spend 7 days diving. You get 7 diving days out there.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
36 hours out, 7 days of diving, 36 hours back.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and it's so remote. I mean, it's too far for a helicopter to go. It's too rocky to land a plane out there. So really the only way out or back are one of these scuba boats. So these scuba boats actually supply the park rangers and stuff. It's really cool.
Wow.
We've got a book floating around the hotel. It's called Costa Rica Blue. I think you can get it at the airport.
Because you and I had a conversation about this before, and I went through the book, and I'm like, man, this is... And
I just bought another copy and took it home for my family.
And if you guys can research this place, just some of the photos, there were some photographers that went out there and took some fantastic...
There's, if you have Disney Plus, there's a thing called Bertie Gregory's Epic Adventures. And Bertie Gregory, I don't know, he's some National Geographic photographer, wildlife photographer, videographer, and so one of his episodes is Shark Island, and it's filmed in Isla del Coco, and it's one of the only places it's the best place in the world to see schools of hammerheads. Right? When I say schools of hammerheads, I don't mean 2 or 3 or 5 or 10. I mean 200.
I remember the one image from down below looking up, and it was
everywhere you look, and all of a sudden they're in front of you, they're behind you, left, right, up, down, and so we were fortunate enough to see the schools of hammerheads. I think 4 or 5 times when we were out there.
So you on those 7 days or those 7 dives you did, you've seen
those 3 dives a day. So 21 dives.
Wow, 21 dives.
21 dives. Yeah,
Jeez.
3 dives a day for 7 days.
And those dives, every time you went down, you saw something just spectacular.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what sort of ruins me for the diving.
That's
around here. There's like I said, there's good diving around here. It's fun. If I have friends in town, I'll go out with them. But
when you hit something like that, you're like, we're there. I don't know if there's too many more places I can go to.
No, it's sort of like going from ski out up at Vail back to one of the hills in Wisconsin. It's fun. It's still skiing, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. That's crazy.
So anyway, look, my point in saying that is whether surfing is your thing or scuba diving is your thing or rock climbing or whatever. That's what's really cool about Costa Rica is there is something for everybody here, right? You just got to find where in the country it is and find a little community to kind of get into.
Thermal springs, like you said.
There's funky wellness stuff. There's plant ceremonies. There's music festivals.
Tons of plant ceremonies. You can get into anything here, man. Lake Arenal's another one. You can do, there's some boat things going on there and some wakeboarding, and so there's everything here, man.
No, that's what I mean. I haven't even scratched the surface. I think you can do kiteboarding kiteboarding, right? I think you can do that somewhere.
Yeah, you can do kiteboarding here. I don't know exactly where. I just looked at Lake Arenal for some wakeboarding not long ago because we were talking about going back to La Fortuna because I absolutely love it there.
The view of that volcano is just
It's so beautiful, man. You
I
pull
gotta go.
into
I
like
never really looked at the volcano.
Oh man, I pulled into La Fortuna, and everybody was telling me like that day. They're like, "Hey, this is the first time here." I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "You're so lucky. Normally, it's like that clouded tops or whatnot."
No, so you had a clear day.
Full open. It's absolutely stunning. And even the photos, like I've showed my parents some of the photos and some of my friends, doesn't do justice at all.
It never does. That's
Never
what I mean.
does, yeah.
We had photos and videos from the Cocos Island trip, and I tried to show them to people. And I'm like, yeah, it's just not.
It's not
the same.
That's not what it
like
is.
We came up from a dive, and there were these two older French guys, probably in their 60s or something on the trip, and they started crying. Like, we've been looking for this for 20 years.
Oh my God,
and I'm like,
that's
oh my
crazy.
God. So no, it's been a fun place to start this company. It's we've had our challenges and stuff, but by and large things feel like they're going relatively well, and we're excited to continue growing in Costa Rica, and we'll see where things go.
That's awesome, man. You obviously read, right?
Yes.
So what's like a favorite book? I want to do this on all the episodes. Get somebody to say what a favorite book is.
Favorite book.
Yeah.
I mean, Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a Costa Rica one for you.
Any self-help books that you ever read that you're like, yeah, this kind of helped me out? You're not a big self-help book
Not a big
kind of
self-help.
guy.
In terms of like nonfiction, I'm a big fan, and it's been a while, but like Principles by Ray Dalio.
Oh, yeah.
It's a business book,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's all about, a big section of it is about sort of direct communication and just no bullshit and separating sort of your ego from your participation in the business world, and how to get to the right answer, where we put an idea out there, and the reason I'm bringing this up is something that we really lean into with our company, is that put an idea out in front of the group earlier on, and the idea is to build your team in such a way where we all have different experiences, and that we try to poke holes in the idea behind closed doors, right?
Yeah.
Somebody floats an idea, hey, I want to change the tacos, for example, here at Onda.
Yeah.
And here's my, and I want 45 different perspectives. And look, as a group, if we can't shoot that idea down, it's probably a decent idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? But it's really hard for people to not take things personally. And anyway, so a big chunk of that book, and so it's something I actually brought a copy down when I just flew down on Tuesday. So I got to leave it here strategically for people to read.
And that's why I do it. I bring it up because, a lot of the times, like-minded individuals, there is a book out there that one little piece helped them, or, feel like that could help other people. And that's exactly why I asked the question.
I look, probably to a fault, I'm sort of a direct communicator.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm hoping I'm working. And we're working. The team is doing a great job of meeting me at my level of direct communication.
Yeah, that's awesome. But we had a fantastic time here today with you, Billy, and
all right. Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
you guys are
man.
welcome anytime. And if anybody wants to come stay at Onda, we got a friends and family code that we can give you. You can share with your
oh,
listeners.
perfect. There you go. And like I said, you guys can check out the hotel here. This is a fantastic place to stay. Always super fun. And maybe we'll do another podcast here.
All right. Come back and get Bernie next time.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
All right, brother.